shoulder dystocia, which is basically like sometimes in birth, babies can get twisted. And so instead of being like coming out where they're going to be their head facing down, they're kind of twisted to the side and their shoulder can get stuck underneath the pubic bone. And that's what happened to my son. And so no matter how hard you push, the baby can't go through a bone. And so in order to remove that for women, they'll do C-sections or they'll do vacuums or forceps. So for hers, it looks like they used a vacuum. So anyway, she goes through this long story about how like she has to go through this horrific childbirth to a dead baby. They have to knock her out because she's so hysterical. And she didn't understand what was going on. And he had to like stick his arm all the way up just to get the baby out. Eventually they get the baby out. The baby's like, all of the baby's bones are broken. It looks like horrific. It says that she had several broken bones and they brought the baby over to me and I finally got to see my daughter. And she says, Journey Moon Martini was born a sleeping angel. Mm-hmm. She passed away due to a massive uterine infection. So she had a huge infection. Yeah, you can just go through those slides. I was just reading through them.
When did the baby actually die?
So she says that she felt the baby moving on the 6th, but the baby stopping moving on the 6th didn't even make her go to the hospital. And if you're a man and you've never been pregnant, but like, babies that are full term, they're busy and they kick and they're moving all around and you can feel them. So if they go quiet and she didn't go and seek help, that's like, to me, one of the most disturbing parts of this.
What are the laws here? Like, is she facing any kind of criminal? I don't even know how that would work.
Okay, so I was doing some research on this before we went live because I was trying to figure out, are there any charges? So there's different, like if she would have had a midwife and the midwife would have ignored all of those signs, it's possible the midwife could have been charged like in the manslaughter of the infant. If she would have had the hospital at a birth, like at a birthing center or if she would have had the baby at a hospital, they can do wrongful death suits against doctors if the baby was viable going into the labor. And it sounds like this baby was viable because it was active and she talked about how much it moved. So this was a baby that was alive. The only case that I could find was there's a couple in Oregon right now who are pled guilty in July. The woman had twins after in a home birth. And following the home birth, she delivered one infant stillborn, and then one of the infants was born alive and then subsequently died. It was premature, and they refused medical treatment for the child, and they were charged with manslaughter. So in this case, I don't know. I couldn't find anything where she would be charged. I mean, it's a known risk of going into childbirth at your home that you could potentially kill your child.
You said that there were cases where the midwife could potentially be, charged with manslaughter. Wouldn't the boyfriend count in this case because he stood by and watched this happen and didn't do a thing?
I don't know. And it makes me wonder if like the fact that she was using this Emily woman as a coach because one of the founders of the Free Birth Society, she was a doula. She has no medical background. I mean, she worked as a doula, but a doula is basically like someone that like gets you ice chips and rubs your back. They're not providing you any medical assistance. They're there to keep the mother comfortable while they're pregnant. So she coaches women on how to free birth. And so I don't know if by helping women through birth, she opens herself up to any liability at all. I don't know. But the mother did say that she was helping her during that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
what are her?
The free.
Go ahead.
Well, so the interesting thing is like as this story keeps developing, and I have I wrote the article on Friday. And since it's been like online, it's had over like 20,000 people that have read it. So it's gotten a lot of exposure, and it's gotten back to the Free Birth Society, and it's gotten back to the mothers. So they know that this article exists. They know that the story is public. And I actually just got where is it? Someone had just sent me.
I was going to say too. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the Free Birth Society, so aside of Crunchy, which is, I don't know who that is. They posted to the Unassisted Childbirth Free Birth Facebook page, and they said, "We love that you add your friends, but especially right now, all free birth groups have the potential to be under fire in Trollhaven with the recent Pathos article that came out about the Free Birth Society. I'm not going to post it because the more reads the disgusting author gets, the more money she gets, and I don't want to fund a free birth hater. Let's just say it's not a nice article. Everyone must answer questions to get in, period, point blank." Basically, like, all of these groups that do free birth have like shut the F down. Like, they won't let anyone in. The Free Birth Society, the owner, she put up a video basically saying, "We don't hate midwives. We don't hate doctors. We don't condone this. We don't condone that." But if the rules for that Facebook group specifically say, like, I think if one of those slides for Dave, it's like, it says you can't talk about like medical anything. Like, you can't urge someone to go get medical help. So this group facilitated this child's death.
What's her mindset now? Like, looking at this situation, it's happened. And what is her frame of be about it? Is she okay with it? Like, what's going on in her head?
So right before we went live, someone tagged me in a post. Let me see if I can find it. She had basically posted an update where she said that, it's been a week since her baby died, and she's still like trying to come to terms with what happened. And like, she doesn't seem to take any blame. Like, she seems to believe that the uterus infection is what caused the death. And like, that's what she's hanging on to. And she doesn't, she says she's asking herself questions about what and why and that kind of stuff. But like, from the tone of all of her messages, it's like, it's almost like this disconnect. And I don't know if it's like the trauma, because there is considerable trauma, right? She's lost her baby. And maybe she's not going to publicly outwardly say like she feels responsible. Like, maybe she just doesn't want to, she's already talking about wanting to have more kids. I mean,
no.
Yes.
When she went to the hospital, is there a like a protocol in? And I don't know. I'm just asking if this is maybe state by state or whatever. But did they do an investigation into like if there could be some criminal activity, or if you know what I'm saying, like follow up?
Yeah, I don't know how how they like document it. It would come into the hospital as like a home birth kind of gone bad, but I don't know, like the death of the baby would be documented in the hospital because that's where it's delivered. So it would go under a hospital death, even though technically the baby died in her uterus at home, right? But like I said, I don't know what kind of laws they are. And like, trust me, like, I have been looking for that answer for 3 days, because every single person that reads this story is like, there has to be something that can be done. Like, she literally killed this baby. And the fact that like the Free Birth Society egged it on, right? Like they did nothing to stop it.
I'm sorry.
How big are they? Well,
how big? What about this organization? Because they seem to be. Dave, you want to go to the next slide? I think you actually sent in the rules that they have, like for these home births. I think it's the next to the last one, Dave.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the actual organization?
Yeah. So the organization is like they're founded by two women, Emily Saldea and Yolanda Carter, I think is her name. And they aren't connected in terms of like location wise. I think Yolanda is in New Brunswick, Canada, and I believe Emily is in Hawaii, right? So they work together virtually. And their Facebook page has about 11,000 followers. Their Instagram account has about 18,000 followers. And then they have a Facebook group with just over 5,000 people in it. So it's not tiny, there's enough women. And the organization that they have classes. So they charge $600 for an online course that teaches you how to free birth. So if they're not, like, the thing to me is like, if you're not providing medical assistance, what are you doing? It almost as though they're practicing without a license, right? If they're giving education on how to free birth.
Exactly.
Yet, right?
Exactly.
So yet they have all these disclaimers on their website that like, this does not substitute for medical, advice. Please consult a doctor. We are not trained medical people, but it's the same BS that all of these scammers do, right? Like Jillian, like Jim Humble, they all use that same disclaimer. And it doesn't matter because they say, well, I'm not a medical professional, but then people are coming to them as though they are and trusting them. And they charge for classes. They charge for coaching. They have a $900 package where they have expected mothers pay them for Skype calls.
That's ridiculous. But it's not surprising. I mean, we had a guy on here. We had a guy on here several months ago who he got like $300 a Skype call, and his shtick was that he was a healer. He would heal you through Skype. So,
right. It's and their whole Facebook group is like a racket for their business.
Yeah. And he would ask you how you're feeling, and you would tell them, and he would say it back to you in the tone that you said it to him, because he says that by projecting your pitch and tone back to you, that negates the negative energy. And he's making $300 a pop off of these calls from people who are, just searching for some kind of happiness. It's deplorable, I think.
It's awful. I mean, it's, you're taking advantage of people. And, Emily and Yolanda have no education in this field. I mean, Emily has worked as a doula, which again doesn't count. She's not a certified midwife. Yolanda has like 800 kids. I don't know if that qualifies for something, and she's birthed them all wildly. But I mean, her blogs are ridiculous. It's like she thinks that gestational diabetes is a racket designed by, the OBs to make money, and that ultrasounds are going to kill the babies, and, putting your fingers up the cervix is akin to rape. I mean, again, it's just, these women are so detached and so privileged, and they have an audience, much like all of these other people like Jillian's and all of these people that do this, that hang on their every word. And these two women have decided to capitalize on it, and women pay them. And clearly this mother was on the phone with Emily at some point talking her through this, and she never went to the hospital. I mean, how arrogant are you to do that to someone?
I do you know the statistics on like how many of these occur a year, and what the ratio of successful births to ones that are, end up like what we talked about tonight?
Yeah. So, the CDC and the the CDC has done some studies on home birth outcomes versus like